Hey there, welcome back to Total Geek Live Baltimore Presents. I'm Baltimore, and I am here today to bring you Days of Future Past. This is an incredible storyline. It's actually only 2 issues, surprisingly, but it is so iconic. It is so memorable, and it has set up so many things for the X-Men universe. It's such great work. Days of Future Past. You must get this if you haven't read it yet. Where have you been? But it is so incredible. It's only 2 issues. It's issue 141 and 142 of Uncanny X-Men. In 1981, this was sent out. And it's the dystopian future of 2013. Oh, no. Terrible things happened in 2013, apparently. But it was actually really fascinating because the storyline was told in 2 different eras, one of 2013 and one of 1980-ish, when Kitty Pryde first joined the X-Men. It was really beautiful work. This is still, John Byrne and Chris Claremont at the top of their game. And not only that, about 3 issues ago, Jean Grey had just died. So this was like, they had this amazing storyline, and now they have this amazing storyline. It's like, wow. It's just nonstop, everything was happening. It was brilliant and wonderful. So in 2013, you have the X-Men that are remaining, which is Storm, Wolverine, Colossus, Kate Pryde now, and Magneto, who's crippled. And they have Rachel Summers, who is the daughter of Jean and Cyclops, and her boyfriend, which is Franklin Richards, which is the son of Sue and Reed Richards. So they're who are the only one remaining left out of the X-Men. Everyone else has been killed, imprisoned, something has happened to them. And it's really fascinating. The way that they've decided that the only way that they can prevent this from happening is to send Kitty Pryde's mind back in time to when she first joined the X-Men to stop the assassination of Senator Robert Kelly at the hands of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, which is led by Mystique at this time period. So that's what they decided. The kernel of moment of why things went bad. So if they thought if they can prevent this, then our future won't happen. And it's just really beautiful storyline. I love alternate timelines and future timelines and kind of that whole time travel story. It's really fascinating, and it's done well. And this is the kind of story, like, if you had put it into today's, it would have been at least like 6 or 7 issues. This was just 2 issues, and so powerful because there's so much happening that you don't really know all what happening, but it's kind of like all the allusions to it, and you're like, what happened to this character and this character and this person? It's overwhelming, but it's so good. And so Kate Pryde has moved her mind back in time by the help of Rachel Summers, who's one of my favorite characters. Put her back in time, and she has just joined the X-Men, and she is telling the X-Men what they have to do and why they have to do it. So they have to go fight the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, led by Mystique. And this is also the first appearance of Pyro and Avalanche and Destiny. Those kind of iconic Brotherhood characters are really kind of cool to see this all happening again in this kind of only 2 issues storyline. And so the fight between them is really beautiful. It's really great to see that. And it's so interesting to see the fight that's happening in the 1980-ish time, and then the fight that's happening in the 2013, the future, because the X-Men are also going to be going and trying to stop the Sentinels from taking over the entire world. And it's Wolverine and Colossus and Storm going off to stop this, while while Rachel and Kitty and Magneto stay behind. It was really fascinating. It's so beautiful. And, the cover for the second one is, in this issue, everyone dies. And you're like, but this is you can't have the X-Men die. And, yeah, it was, everyone dies. Storm died, Colossus died, everyone died. Wolverine died. It was a bloodbath for the X-Men in the future to try and stop the, stuff that was happening in the past. And, you cut back again to the past, and you have the X-Men saving Senator Kelly, so he's not killed. And they're like, okay, so we did it. We prevented the murder We prevented his assassination, so everything must be fine, right? And Kate Pride goes back into the future, wakes up with Rachel again, and the future hasn't really changed. I mean, there's some things that are different, but it's maybe that wasn't the moment. And when they were writing this, they were kind of thinking that this was an alternate future, but as they ended the story, it took on its life of its own. You have the daughter of Jean Grey and Scott Summers, Rachel Summers. What an amazing character to have this in the future. You're like, wow. You're like, and you think about it, like, how did this happen? Like, because 3 issues ago she died, but that's not where this story is coming from. This timeline is coming from, and you think about, well, they weren't even married, but they did have a moment in in the Dark Phoenix saga where they were together, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's must have been when we got Rachel, and you're like, oh, all these such cool like little things here and little things there. That was such great moments of the entire 2 issues that you're like, oh my god, this is great. Having Magneto come around to be with the X-Men is so cool. Um, and of course, Kitty and Colossus are together, so it's kind of this beautiful foretelling of their relationship that we kind of see happening, which is nice. And then having Franklin and Rachel together is a really nice, touching moment between the two families of the Marvel Universe, Fantastic Four and the X-Men, and bringing them together was really kind of cool because they, we'll touch on this later, and it's such an incredible time travel story, and it's been referenced countless times. It's been brought back into the media in X-Men Days of Future Past, which is the 2014 film, which was a really great way to kind of course correct the X-Men franchise. Really, really well done. So amazing, that film. Even though they took a lot of license with the story to kind of make it fit, it was a great adaptation for what they were trying to do. It was a great, great film. But the 2 issues itself, fantastic, utterly amazing. You can find this pretty much anywhere. It's so good. Um, Very quick read, obviously. Only 2 pages. The thing on the back, it says, "The X-Men are dead. Long live the X-Men." So it's just really kind of a great, great story. And then from this, you get Rachel Summers coming back into the main Marvel Universe timeline. And she thought she prevented it, so she didn't. So she goes back in time herself. And she ends up in this time. And, it's such a crazy thing for her because in this new timeline, she sees all the people that she dealt with that had died, and sometimes died at her hands because she was a hound of Ahab. And in this future, she realizes that Jean Grey is dead. They never married. She wasn't born. That's kind of a crazy little mind trip for you. And that Cyclops has married Madeline Pryor, and she has a child. They have a child, a son, her brother, Cable. And it's so really fascinating to see how they interact with each other. And her, she didn't tell anybody for a long time who she was, and that kind of was really fascinating to see that inner turmoil, and confronting the things that she knows in the future will be a big, big problem, and she tries to proactively stop it. And she accepts the Phoenix Force, and she actually is the most competent and best Phoenix Force holder of the entire, people who've wielded the Phoenix Force. She held it for 10-ish years, and never went dark. She didn't go crazy and didn't destroy universes with it. So she was probably the best Phoenix Force wielder of them all. And having her accept that, knowing everything that the X-Men know about Phoenix, was just kind of really fascinating. And we see a lot of sequels to the Days of Future Past storyline. It was in Excalibur with Days of Future Past, Days of Future Tense, pretty cool one. And then there's also a Days of Future Present annual storyline, which I'll talk about at some point. But just really, really fascinating to kind of see them, the story and those characters come back again, because it's really, really fascinating. They're, great, great tragic figures as well. And, we know this story. We feel this story. We love this kind of like, we have to go to the past to save the future. And that's something that everyone is kind of familiar with now. And this is, this is an iconic storyline, 2 issues, and that's super iconic. So let me know what you think about Days of Future Past. What was your favorite moment? If you read it without kind of realizing who the X-Men were, what this meant to them, tell me about it, because that's really fascinating to kind of see, like, someone just coming into it, which is kind of how I did. I like, what? It was great. But let me know your favorite part of Days of Future Past, and like, subscribe, and share. And as always, it's all geek to us.